this is Clint totalitizing his partners. Or whatever that I just said in that last slide. I keep moving this thing because I can't see it. Totally not aware of the fact that it inhibits your view of the screen. So again, it's all about perspective taking, and I'm sucking it up right now. Okay. 4 layers analysis. We're going to work with the first layer and the 4th layer. The other 2 layers, they're really advanced integral concepts, which we haven't covered this week yet and won't. Peer conversations, if anyone wants to know about layers 2 and 3. The first layer asks us to identify a who and a what. Okay, I'll explain what these are in a second. The second layer asks us to identify how. The third asks us to identify from where. And the 4th is how deep. Okay? All of this is summarized in this cool handout. For our activity, what I want you to do, we're just going to jump right into this and kind of take it step by step. Question is, for the group, we're going to work as individuals for 2 little sessions. We're going to keep them pretty short, and then we're going to get together in groups of 3 or 4. Okay. Question is, how do we cultivate an integral sustainability? I just chose one question for the group. Typically, I don't do that. Typically, I say, hey, pick a personal issue for yourself. This time, we're going to try it out like this and see what happens. Okay. Whoops. That's a mistake. Okay. Here's what we're... Actually, forget about that. That's what it was trying to say. Here's what I want you to do. The who is referring to who is doing the looking, who is doing the seeing right now, who is doing the analyzing. So as a tool, you go to your office on Monday morning, you have this crazy blowout or whatever happens, you're like, oh man, good Lord, at the end of the day, I got to go through this. I can't figure out what's my next course of action. How do I get through this nightmare, whatever it might be? Who's doing the looking is going to be you in this case. Okay? More advanced, you can turn the you into Barrett or into your boss, and you can start doing this analysis from someone else's perspective. This is why there's layers and layers and layers and layers. It's like an onion with this thing. The nice thing about it is you can choose, I just need 1 layer here. So as you get familiar with the tool, you say, that problem, that's a 1-layer problem. Oh, that problem, that's like a 6-layer problem. I got to go deep in that one. We've used this in a couple consulting gigs with a few people, and it's actually turned out to be pretty, the flexibility of it has proven to be very useful, let me say that. Where we're starting to identify problems of this nature require these layers, problems of this nature require those. So I'm saying all that so you can take it home and kind of experiment with it. I want you to look at this, you in the middle, so it's you doing the looking, and I want you to look at 3 whats. Whats are these objects that we're looking at? First, we're looking at ourselves. Second, we're going to look at us. Us is this group. Us right here in this room. Next is the world. Okay? All in this question of how do we cultivate integral sustainability. So how do I, Clint, cultivate it? How do we here cultivate it? And how do we cultivate it in the world? My living environment, my work environment, other systems that I'm involved with that support sustainable initiatives, and I recognize for myself, wow, I just started a company, I'm working on my PhD, that's about it. I don't really do much actively plugging into systems that support sustainability. So that's my quadrant analysis of myself. So that means an example of what you do just real briefly for each of these whats. So I'm just going to throw you into the fire. You're going to hate me when I say this, but take 3 minutes to do it. Literally 1 or 2 words in each quadrant. If you get lost or trapped, look up here at some of these questions. Don't try to answer these because there's too many. But if you get lost, like I just don't know what I'm looking at. Okay? And when it comes to looking at the world or us, which are groups, okay, in the upper quadrants, I'm just going to give you a hint. In the upper quadrants, the way I want you to relate to them is, how do you feel about that group for the upper left? What do you do in or with or regards to that group for the upper right? We're going to keep it nice and simple. Okay? About how these lenses can be looked through. In reality, as you go forward, if you want to practice with this, you can find yourself sitting down and actually analyzing something really deep, many pages of notes, through a tool type of stuff is done on napkins at the bar, right? Or little scraps of paper. It's just like little tools that help you get a clearer glimpse of some situation. We're emulating that a little bit. Last step of this, okay? Consider the what. This is a personal choice now. Consider the what. The what being is itself, us, or world that you think has the greatest potential leverage for answering or solving or this question of how we cultivate an integral sustainability. I know you don't want to choose because it's all three of them, and yes, it is all three of them. For this exercise, we're going to pick one. So which one of those? Just pick one. Self, other, or excuse me, self, us, or the world. Once you've identified that, we're going to ask this question. This comes from layer 4, okay? This is bringing levels into a quadrant analysis, okay? So the question is, of what degree of complexity were the factors or words or things that you identified in the quadrant? Okay? What degree of complexity? And I have a little cheat sheet coming up next that'll show you how to work with the levels. So what degree of complexity, which are the factors you listed, and can you think of something you didn't list or didn't think of that is maybe one notch higher? The idea here is new idea generation in all quadrants, also using levels. So the little cheat sheet, if you will, for this, this is what it would look like if you were drawing it on your papers. We're just doing one of these. You pick. What it would look like is this. Again, no need to copy this down. Just relate to it now and try to complete the exercise. I'll send this to you. This is something called the 12 zones, or 12 niches. It was created by Sean Eastburn-Hargens. His book's over here. He goes through it in there. Do you go through it in the paper in the reader? No? So you get more information there. It's just a way of looking at each quadrant. Okay, so now we got the quadrants running as columns. Okay, through 3 levels of complexity, which run up from the lowest to the highest. Okay, so the inquiry here is, given this problem, how do we cultivate sustainability, and given the what that you chose, like how does Clint cultivate integral sustainability, I'm going to look at what I identified in each quadrant and say, was I identifying more body level, mind level, or spirit level aspects of that? Without judgment, just identify it best you can. And then ask yourself, if I popped it up one level higher, what would that look like? And attempt to put a 1, 2, or 3 next to each little factor you put in your quadrants. The words I have up in here, they're meant to kind of cue you in to those levels of complexities. Don't hold them too tightly. This is, to do this exercise, it's kind of an intuitive sense, looking at the factors you've identified. So take another 3 minutes to just kind of run through that real quick.
So could you offer that direction one more time?
That direction was, don't treat these words and these little explanations as definitions, and don't try to fit your factors in like eggs into those holes. Relate to your factors and their degree of complexity in more of an intuitive way. Does that make sense? So like, an example would be in the upper right if you said, like I said when I was doing my little thing, I don't recycle enough, I don't do the behavior of it. That's in the upper right, where are you? Action. It's a behavior, it's a physical behavior. What if I said, I'm going to plan a strategy, make a plan of sorts that takes my entire household and sets up a new system that handles recycling in a better, more inclusive way. I just made a little jump to the lower right, but that's popping up a level of a strategy that informs a new system. You kind of see the flow there, just intuitively. Kind of grasp the level of complexity. Alright, if you're struggling to get through the rest of your factors, just lighten up on it and just kind of assign an intuitive sense or a number to it.